Alright, so this is my wife Maureen.
Hello.
And she does not like pork belly. Can you tell them why you don't like pork belly?
I don't like the fattiness of it. It's greasy, it's chewy. I just prefer lean meats.
We're gonna see if we can change her mind. How do you feel about bacon?
I don't care for bacon.
This is what I'm working with.
I know.
This is what I'm working
I know.
What do you think the kids are going to say?
Where's the ketchup? So today we're going to be cooking pork belly. I picked this pork belly up at Costco, and for those of you who may not know, pork belly is essentially pre-bacon. It's not, you can get it sliced, but this is not sliced. It's not cured, it's not smoked yet, though we will be smoking ours today. And again, you can get it skin on or skinless. This is a skinless pork belly. What we're going to be trying to accomplish today is to see if we can make a pork belly that my wife will enjoy. Her main gripes about pork belly are it's too fatty, it's too greasy, she doesn't like the texture, it's too squishy, she says it tastes like squid. I don't know if she even knows what the texture of squid is like. But we're going to try to address all of her concerns today. And we're going to start off with an Asian-inspired marinade because my wife loves Asian flavors. We're going to be using our pellet smoker to try to get the fat rendered as much as possible. That will help both reduce the amount of fat, because some of the fat will render out and drip off of the pork belly, and the remaining fat that's on the pork belly should be of a really nice tender texture. And by doing those things, the meat should stay nice and juicy and should also have a great texture. So stick around. We'll start with the marinade, the trim. I'll show you all the stuff that we're going to use to prepare this pork belly. So I just want to run you guys through some of the stuff that we'll be using today, just to give you a heads up so you can get any of the stuff that maybe you'll have to pull out to follow along. So again, I've got my pork belly that I picked up from Costco. This one again is a skinless pork belly. It's about 9 pounds, so it's about $3 a pound at Costco, so it's not too terrible. Most of the time that I go to Costco, they have pork belly. They don't always have briskets and things like that, but I don't think I've ever seen a time when they haven't had pork belly. For our marinade, we're going to be using this Cosmos Sticky Asian Rib Glaze, and we're actually going to be diluting this a little bit with water, because this is, again, intended to be a rib glaze, so it's going to be thicker and a little bit stickier. So diluting that with water will help it act more like a marinade. Some of the key ingredients in it are cane sugar and soy sauce, so those will help penetrate the meat. Should give it a little bit different color, won't be quite as pink once it's done in the marinade, and the salt and the sugar should penetrate pretty deeply into the meat to give it more flavor and help it stay more moist. We'll also be seasoning after the marinade with ground black pepper. I've got a really sharp fillet knife here for trimming little bits of the pork belly. You shouldn't have to do much, but we're also going to be cutting this into at least 4 different sections here and cooking it that way. So you'll need a sharp knife to do that. Pork in general, meat in general, I guess, especially if it's not frozen, it can be difficult to trim, so it's really helpful to have a sharp knife. I've got some nitrile gloves here. I always use nitrile gloves whenever I'm making barbecue. It just helps make cleanup better. I got these off of Amazon. Got a bowl and a fork here to whisk up the marinade, and then today we're going to be putting the pork belly to marinate in just 2-gallon Ziploc bags. If you have hotel pans or something like that, you can use those as well. This is what I have, so this is what we'll be using today. So again, I'm just going to cut open the packaging here. Try not to score the meat too bad if you can avoid it. And be sure to sanitize your surfaces once you're done. I've got this in a little bit of a raised pan here. I've got a cutting board in the bottom Try to protect the pan as much as possible. Now you can see that this pork belly is extremely juicy. It's got one end here that's a little bit folded over. It's thicker. I'll trim some of this up so we have more even cooking on the pellet grill. But right now I'm just going to go through, pat this dry. I don't really need or want this excess liquid. Now we're just going to go through and kind of clean up any bits that are hanging off. Again, those will burn. They're not real great for eating. You kind of want a consistent surface and surface texture. There's not much silver skin on these, and I'm not terribly worried about any silver skin that is on here because these will cook pretty thoroughly, and most of that silver skin will become perfectly edible by the time we're done cooking. So again, just looking for little bits and pieces like this and kind of hanging off. It'll burn up. Won't be very nice to eat. Now we're essentially going to cut this into 4 as equal as possible sections. So again, I'm just going to kind of bisect this pork belly right down the middle. So I'm going to finish trimming these up, and then we'll get them in the bags with the marinade. Alright, so we're going to start prepping our marinade here. Again, I'm using Cosmo's Sticky Asian Rib Glaze. This is a 16-ounce bottle. I think it's going to be a little bit too thick to work as a marinade, so I'm going to dilute it with some water. We're going to kind of eyeball the water to see how much we need to dilute it. But I'm going to start by adding this entire bottle to our bowl here, and then I will add water as I think is necessary. We'll probably rinse out this bottle a little bit to get the last little bits of the rib glaze in there, and then we'll move on to opening our meat, trimming it, and cutting it to size, putting it in the marinade bags. And I'm actually pretty happy with the thickness of this. It's kind of, I don't know, I'd say like maple syrup thickness. Still has a very strong soy sauce and Asian flavors type smell to it. Alright, so now we've got our pork belly all trimmed up. See, there's a little scalp here. I'm not too concerned about that. Now we're going to get our pork, put 2 pieces in each one of these gallon Ziploc bags, and then we'll add our marinade. Once we've got our marinade in there, I'm just going to put these in the fridge overnight. I'm going to periodically try to flip the bags and stuff to try to make sure that all of the surfaces get ample time to be marinated. And then tomorrow we'll pull it out of the Ziploc bags, kind of pat it dry a little bit. We'll add our pepper and we'll throw it on the pit. All right, guys, it's the next day. Just pulled our pork belly out of the marinade. It's looking great. It's got a slightly brown color to it. It smells amazing. Definitely those soy sauce and chili pepper flavors or scents coming through. So now I've got the pit fired up, my Recteq RT-590 fired up to 200 degrees. We're gonna season these up, get them on, try to get as much smoke on them as possible. Once we think that the bark is all set on them, we'll turn up the temperature on the smoker to 250 degrees until they're done. Then we're gonna prepare these pieces a little bit differently. Some of them will cube up at the end and sauce. Some of them will just sauce the blocks and slice them once they're done. But for right now, let's get to seasoning. I'm gonna take off my glove that has some pork schmutz on it. We're just getting a light coat of pepper on these pork bellies. It looks nice, gives it kind of a sharp flavor, should cut through some of the salt from the marinade pretty well. I'm not terribly concerned about getting all the sides and stuff. And we're not doing a competition cook. Try to get them as best you can, but again, we're not doing a competition cook here, so I'm not too concerned about it. And this will help us with some bark formation, give it some texture. Just looks really nice, and I love black pepper. So I'll finish getting these seasoned up, and then we'll get them on the pit. All right, so like I said, I've got the pit fired up. Got it set at extreme smoke, which is the lowest setting that my Recteq RT-590 will go. It's rocking just under 200 right now. It'll come up to temp here real quick. Now when I put these on, the firebox on this smoker is right here in the center of the cooking chamber. And because I don't have a second shelf in here, a second row to get the meat further away from that radiant heat, I'm going to try to put 2 of the pieces of pork belly here and 2 over here, and we'll just monitor their temperatures with the probes, and we'll monitor them visually and move them around as necessary to make sure that they don't overcook or cook too fast. I'm going to put these on for right now with their fat cap up, and again, we'll just monitor as we go and make adjustments as necessary. Take one of my probes and stick it in this guy. I'm going to take another one and stick it in this back, so I've got a little bit better coverage across my whole cooking chamber. We'll let this rock for about an hour or so, and then we'll check back in, see how we're doing. All right, guys, the pork belly's been on the smoker for hour and a half at this point. Right now, it's one of the probes is reading 146, one's reading 117. So we're just going to open it up, visually check our progress, and I'm probably going to flip these to all be fat side down just to start rendering that fat a little bit more. And we're going to bump the temperature from extreme smoke, which is running about 185 degrees right now. We're going to bump it up to 250 to really start rendering this fat. So let's see how they look. Oh yeah, those are looking pretty nice. We got nice brown coloring, still pretty soft. Not really tacking up at all, but you can see the pepper is adhering. The bark, as we would say, is set up. Let's see how these look on the underside. Yeah, getting some nice color there. These actually are not, I was a little bit worried about them overcooking or burning a little bit on the bottom. That one actually looks fine. I'm going to pull the probe here on this piece. Oh yeah, this one's looking great. Nice color on that. Same thing here. This one's getting a little bit crispy. My guess is that this edge was overhanging the deflector plate in the back a little bit, so it's getting more airflow. This one actually feels much stiffer than the other ones, so I'm going to rotate this to the back. I think this one is cooking faster than the others. I'm not going to probe these anymore at this point. Going forward, I'll just use my Thermapen and just periodically check these. But like I said, now we're going to bump the temperature up to 250 degrees, and we'll check back on these in an hour or so. All right, everybody, we're back. It's been about 3 hours since we first put the pork belly on the grill. So I had a little slight wardrobe change. It's finally warming up here in Minnesota today. I got my hand savers on. Originally learned about these from Malcolm at How to Barbecue Right. Some cotton gloves covered in nitrile gloves. These work essentially like oven mitts, but you've got the nitrile gloves so you can handle the meat without the juices soaking into the gloves. Works really well. So we're going to check on our pork belly here. Now off camera, I've flipped these a couple of times. They were meat side up before. I've got them back fat side up. And I also noticed that this side of the grill seemed to be a little bit warmer
So I've swapped these. These two pieces over here used to be here, and these two pieces were on the other side of the grill. I just swapped them. I'm gonna check them quick for color on the bottom. You can see they're looking pretty nice. Really just looking to get a lot of this fat on this fat cap rendered out at this point. We're gonna probe these, see where they're at. Starting to feel tender, but not anywhere near where we need them to be. 175, 173, this one back here, 170, this one here, about 170. This one is actually starting, the fat is starting to feel really nice on this. And again, we're just working to try to get this fat rendered out. Again, the goal here is see if we can make pork belly that my wife will enjoy. One of the things she doesn't like about pork belly, and bacon for that matter, is it's so fatty, so greasy, so we want to get this rendered out. We don't want it to have a really squishy texture. She doesn't like that either. So I think we're going to nail the flavor. Now we just got to get this thing tendered and rendered. All right, so a couple of these I think are ready to come off. A couple of them are not. I'd like it to be a little bit more tender there, but I think we'll come up when it temps. This section here is really tender. And this guy back here is probing really nice. So we're gonna take this piece of pork butt off and this one off, and we're gonna wrap those and let them rest. These other two we'll continue to smoke at 250 degrees until they're probing a little bit more tender. We pulled the pork belly pieces off about an hour ago. They've been resting, wrapped in foil. We're gonna open one up right now. We're gonna cube it and toss it in some Texas style barbecue sauce and put it back on the smoker so that barbecue sauce can kind of tack up, turn into a little glaze. Once those are ready, we'll pull them off. And we've got another one of the chunks that we're going to serve without any sauce on it, and we're just going to slice that kind of like you would a brisket, and then we'll give you our tasting notes. Looks nice and sticky. Would like to maybe get a little bit more color on the outside of that. It can be a little bit difficult with pellet grill, but I'm going to slice into this. Going for about 1-inch cubes here. Doesn't have to be perfect, but looking for more or less bite-size chunks here. Oh yeah, that's looking nice. It's nice and juicy. Fat is pretty well rendered. We'll just finish cubing these up and toss them into this pan over here. Pour a little sauce on. Make sure all the sides are coated. Then we're going to get them back on the smoker just to let that sauce tack back up and glaze onto these pork belly chunks. I'm really excited to taste test some of these edge pieces that are a little bit crispier. So we don't need a ton of sauce here. We don't want them swimming in the sauce, but you also don't need to be too timid about it. We want to get all of the edges nice and coated in the sauce. We got the smoker set back on extreme smoke. Alright, so this is my wife Maureen.
Hello.
And she does not like pork belly. Can you tell them why you don't like pork belly?
I don't like the fattiness of it. It's greasy, it's chewy. I just prefer lean meats.
We're gonna see if we can change her mind today. This is gonna be completely unbiased. If she likes it, great. If she doesn't like it, back to the drawing board.
Try again.
So first we're gonna try some of the sliced brisket. This is the end of a sliced piece. Go ahead, give it a try. Is that squid-like?
It is not squid-like. It's much better than I was anticipating. It's very sweet. There's a sweetness to it.
It's not quite as Asian-inspired as I kind of expected it to be, but yeah, there's that kind of lingering Asian.
Yeah, you get the sweetness that I associate with like Asian cuisine, but it's not. Yeah, and it's not chewy.
Let's try some of this from the other end.
Okay.
To do you a favor, I'm going to cut off some of this fat.
Thank you, sir.
I think that's better, actually.
It is. I like that end better. I think it's almost got more. Does a pork belly have bark?
Yeah.
Is that part of? Okay.
It has more texture.
Yeah.
Turkey in the neighbor's yard.
Oh boy, turkey in the neighbor's yard.
Let's smoke it. Okay, so thumbs up, thumbs down.
I would eat it again. It's still not my favorite meat, but this is probably the best pork belly I've ever had.
Where in your mind is there room for improvement?
More of like the flavor. It's still a very textural thing for me.
So you want more?
It's too
kind
fatty.
of crispy.
Yeah,
you want
the
more
crispy.
bark?
Yeah.
Okay. That's going to be a little bit hard to achieve on a pellet smoker. Not impossible. A little bit hard to achieve. I'm going to try some of this from
The burnt ends might have that more.
from a middle section. The fat's rendered pretty well. Meat is tender.
Yeah, the fat is edible.
This actually
in
looks
this.
like-
It's not.
Like a little pork brisket. Tiny little pork
Yeah.
brisket. But it needs more bark.
Yeah, more bark. But the flavor is really good. The seasoning is good. The sauce is really good.
Could be better.
Yeah. I would eat it again though.
Could be much worse.
What do you think the kids are gonna say?
Where's the ketchup?
Oh,
But they say
Yeah.
that about everything.
Yeah. You can't give kids protein without ketchup, can you?
All right, now we're gonna try the cubed sauced pork belly. All right, so I just pulled 3 edge chunks of the pork belly off the smoker. These have been glazing for about 10 minutes. Could let it set up a little bit more, but it is getting nice and sticky on the outside. Let's go ahead and give these a try before they cool off. Cameraman Justin, would you like one?
yes.
I like the flavor on that much more. It has a much more intense flavor. Sweet, a little bit of pepper.
Yeah, that sauce is delicious. The piece I had seemed much more, the ratio of like the lean to the fat was much more fatty, which I don't like. But the sauce is really good.
How do you feel about bacon?
I don't care for bacon.
This is what I'm working with.
I know.
This is what I'm working
I know.
So that should temper your understanding of how well this turned out.
Yes.
She doesn't even like bacon, and she still kind of liked this. So I think we're doing all right. There's
It's a
still
ringing
room for
endorsement for normal people.
still room for improvement. We'll keep trying. So as you guys saw, my wife, she's not even a big fan of bacon, so not sure how much we can trust her opinion, but I will say this was not the best pork belly I've had. It's not the best pork belly I've made. I've had better luck on a pellet grill cubing it first. I wanted to try something new here. Didn't work out quite as well as I was hoping, but one of the things that I enjoy about barbecue is that it's never perfect. There's always room for improvement. There's always new things to try. I'll keep trying to perfect pork belly. The biggest issue that this had was that the fat wasn't rendered enough, and there wasn't enough textural difference between the fat and the meat. You don't get as much. It's hard in general to get bark buildup on a pellet grill. It's not impossible, but it's harder than something like an offset. But we'll keep trying, we'll keep experimenting. Thanks for watching, and tune in next time.
Is it recording?
Yep. We just got our bloopers.